This episode of the Blerd Mob contains explicit language. While we want everyone to enjoy the show, sometimes we may say things that are not appropriate for all ages. So, in other words, Mom, Dad, Granny, we cussing. Discretion is advised.
King G, Grow Site, ENT. Rock with it, rock with it, rock with it, rock with it. Let me pop my shit. Let me pop my shit. Hands up.
What's up, y'all, and welcome to the Blerd Mob, your hub for all things black and nerdy. I am your host, Phoop, with my two co-hosts, Ryun and Ralph. If you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other streaming service, make sure you hit that follow button so you can get updates from the mob.
And if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on those bell notifications for future episodes.
All right. I know I mentioned this a couple days ago, but I just want to reiterate that I've been watching the Kanye West documentary, Jeen-Yuhs, on Netflix. And I am enjoying it. I am enjoying this documentary. I know in episode 11, I kind of gave Kanye some shit, saying that I wasn't going to listen to the Donda album. But this documentary here, it's not good as hell for a couple reasons. One, the biggest thing for me is that the nostalgia. So the first two episodes of the Jeen-Yuhs documentary talk about his route from going from producer to a rapper. When I got introduced to Kanye, introduced to Kanye as a rapper. And then I found out he was a producer before that. And episode 2 highly emphasizes the creation of his first album, College Dropout. Especially the single that got him out there, Through the Wire, which is based on a car crash that he got into where he fucked up his jaw. So he rapped the song with the stuff in his jaw, the wires, and which is why it's called Through the Wire. But the nostalgia,
I never knew that, bro.
I didn't either.
So the nostalgia that hit for me is that my dad got me into Kanye. My favorite Kanye West album is Late Registration. And one of the memories that my dad likes to bring up a lot is that me and my cousins, we went on a vacation. And for that whole trip, we listened to Late Registration from top to bottom. So just seeing that Kanye that I enjoy and seeing all the hurdles and obstacles that he had to overcome to get to that position is very inspiring. Like, if you take nothing else away from that documentary, it's just the hunger and the drive that he had to get where he is. And the only reason I'm putting that out there is because it just made me look at this podcast and it's like, dog, I want this shit to make it. I want that hunger and that drive he had to make this shit at the top. So I just wanted to say that I've been watching it. Like, think what you want of Kanye in this moment. But the Kanye that you see in this documentary, this is the old Kanye.
Regardless of what people think, that man has built an empire as a brother who worked his butt off. Call him crazy, talk about his exploits and all that. That man has shoe deals, clothing deals. He's still a great producer. Whole lot of investments. Listen, if he ain't anything, he's at least smart, intellectual, and he knows how to make his money. I got to give him that. I respect that at the very least.
Yeah. I think
it's really you can take from him.
He's unstoppable. I was just having this conversation with my cousin. Like, at this point, he is unstoppable. But I think the other thing is that he documented that whole process. Like, it's not just, you could really see, I guess, for people who got introduced to Kanye, like, in this era, you really get to see that type of person he was back in the early 2000s. They even go start, like, in the 90s, a couple years in the 90s, closer to the 2000s. You get to see that type of person that Kanye was. And it was very nostalgic for me. It's a really good documentary.
I might have to watch it then. I haven't. You're the first person I heard actually really talking about it, so I might check it out.
So
I haven't given it a chance.
I've
been too busy watching other stuff.
Okay, because I was gonna say if you haven't given the documentary a chance just because of like the current Kanye, and I feel like if that's what's stopping you from watching the documentary, I hope that I have convinced you to watch it. It's like this is nothing. This is not. This is his story, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And if you like Kanye's whole music, it's hella nostalgia. Like they have a scene where slow jams when he got Jamie Foxx in the studio to do the chorus, the hook, the slow jams. And I was like, this is history in the making right here. It's
So
not.
we finna start documenting ourselves, Phoop?
Man, we should. That's the other reason why I brought that up. It's like the fact that he documented the whole process. I know we make like videos like now. It's like you can watch us on YouTube and you can see our growth, or you can listen to us on Spotify and you can see where our style changes, and like when you guys got into the mix of like being co-hosts, and you can see where our vibe changes. But I really feel like the behind the scenes stuff, like the shit that builds up to us sitting in front of the camera, sitting in front of the mic, like the pre-promos, like all the discussions and the stuff that we have to push this stuff out to the audience. That's it. This is it. Like, imagine somebody watching a documentary of us 10 years from now when we all in our apartments working these 9 to 5s and doing a podcast on the side. And it's 10 years later and we not even doing that shit anymore, you know? I'm looking at Ralph 10 years later like, Ralph, you remember when we used to work a 9 to 5?
I remember when Ralph used to have baby dreads and now his dreads touching his shoulder blades and he rich now.
You remember? It'd be like, you remember when we all used to record in like 3 different states and now we in the same area and you know we getting paid off this shit. It's that if it really re-inspired me to keep going. Cause you see, cause in Kanye's story you see a lot of his downfalls. You see a lot of people, because he was a producer first, and you see a lot of people not taking him seriously as a rapper because he was a producer, because he was making these beats. They were looking at him like, okay, this guy can rap, but my beat though.
And he had some of the best produced songs back in his time in the first place. Even to this day, you could arguably say Kanye still makes some of the best produced music out there. It's very polished.
That's all I'm saying. The reason I brought this up is just it really motivated me to keep this going. Like if I ever had a day where I was like, man, I'm not feeling this podcast shit, or this really ain't doing nothing for me. This really just pushed me like it's the fruits of your labor.
Yeah.
And I guess with the documenting part, when you get to look back, go back and watch where you started from and see where you are now, it's like, it's crazy.
Facts.
So that is my thing for
That's
today.
Your catching up with the Blerds.
That's my catching up with the Blerds. But I did want to ask you, Ryan, the Cyberpunk update came out a couple weeks ago. I got Cyberpunk. I haven't updated it and played the next gen patch, but I know you have. So what is that looking like at the moment?
So I guess a little bit of backstory for like the audience who may not know. Cyberpunk was obviously the most highly anticipated game to drop in this year, probably for a couple of years. Everybody was looking forward to it. The marketing was on 10. The developers are the same folks who made The Witcher 3, which was a game of the year, one of the best RPGs in recent history. And Cyberpunk dropped, filled with bugs. For one thing, it did not work on last gen. Like I'm talking Xbox One and PS4. It was not playable. You were literally falling through the map. Even if you played it on the current gen Series X and PS5, it was playable, but the graphics looked nothing like the ads. The quests were buggy. The weapons were imbalanced. It was a lot of issues. The day one patch, I can't even remember, but it was gigabytes worth of memory just to do a day one patch, and it was still boo boo garbage. But I played through Cyberpunk. I pushed through. Story, decent. Gameplay, decent. But after playing this recent update, I think it was like 50 gigabytes big, 40 or 50, 60. It was between those three numbers. It was
Mm-hmm.
huge. However, the game is very polished now. I didn't run into any bugs, and it was such a smooth experience that I even went on and did all the side quests and completed all of them because I was like, okay, now it doesn't feel like a chore. So if anybody has not played Cyberpunk 2077, I would say right now is the ideal time to play it. It's very polished. If you got a
Okay.
next gen console, the update also includes like the ray trace and the 4K, the what's it called, adaptable refresh rates and everything. It's real smooth now. The guns are balanced. The amount of money they give you, it is a full game. This is what the game
Okay.
should have been when it dropped.
Because
But I
I
enjoyed it.
got it when it first dropped, and maybe some of the bugs I wasn't paying too much attention, but I wasn't really enjoying the game on my first
Hmm.
hour or so of gameplay. My cousin got a full refund just because of the bugs and shit. So
Wow.
and,
they were
and
giving people
Microsoft and
refunds.
Sony don't like that.
They were giving people
Yeah.
refunds for Cyberpunk 2077 because of everything that went down with the initial release. So I guess I'll upgrade whenever I get around the time to play the game. I'm gonna upgrade and play it. But I guess my question to you,
Hmm.
Ryan, which would be your answer to the audience, for people who got a refund, would you tell them to rebuy the game?
Yeah, it's cheap right. No, it's real cheap right now. I think you can get it for less than $30 on most apps. If you want a
Mm,
solid RPG to play, like a solid RPG, if you're not into JRPGs and you want more story than what say Sony's action adventure games drop, Cyberpunk 2077 right now is probably one of the best RPGs I can recommend right now.
okay.
Before like Dragon Age 4 and a few others come out, or Starfield and any of those other
Well,
games
you know,
come out.
Dragon Age 4 got pushed back to 2023.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
hopefully, I'm hoping that I have not played Dragon Age, but we're gonna, because of the stuff that went down with Cyberpunk, and let's talk about the stuff that's going down with Battlefield 2040. I'm hoping that this game being pushed back, because also Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League got pushed back to 2023. I'm hoping that these
Hmm.
pushbacks are just them finally saying that what we are deeming the minimum viable product, because when a game comes out, what I've learned is that game development companies are expecting to be bugs. They are expecting bugs. But I think
Yeah.
the backlash that these past two games have been getting, maybe their definition of MVP is not enough anymore. And because this is not enough anymore, let's go ahead and push this game back another year so we can make sure that this minimum viable product is going to meet the expectation of our players. Or the minimum viable product is just the game. It's just the polished game.
Well,
Maybe what's up?
you named a trend. I don't know if you caught it, but when you said Battlefield and Dragon Age, that's all EA. Even what's it called? Mass Effect, Battlefront.
Mm-hmm.
EA was
Mm-hmm.
the publisher for a lot of those games, and if you look through recent gaming history, all of those games dropped with hella bugs, or they dropped with useless microtransactions and not a full gaming experience.
So this is
And
the
I do
thing.
agree with you.
I was gonna say, so this was the thing with Battlefield 2042, because it came out that the statement was EA blames Halo Infinite and COVID for the reason that Battlefield 2042 fell below expectations. I looked a bit more into it, and it just turned into one of those things where somebody said something and something else came out of it and they ran with it. EA did not they had like a town hall discussion. EA did not flat out say it's Halo Infinite's fault that this game failed. It was what Battlefield came out first. Their
Right.
Mm-hmm.
MVP, they were expecting the MVP to have bugs. When they said that weekend that Battlefield dropped, they were getting some feedback from the players, which they were expecting. Some genuine feedback, so when they put the next patch out, they can fix it. What happened was that Halo Infinite dropped by surprise. Like, and people started comparing Halo Infinite, which was
Right.
way more polished than Battlefield 2042, to Battlefield, and that's where the negative feedback came from.
But here's the thing, Portia. That is their fault. That is their fault.
Yeah.
Halo Infinite. If you remember when they was dropping trailers,
But
people was making memes out of that little grunt monster, and they gave it a whole name because the face had no fidelity, the resolution was low, it looked slow.
but
People were talking about Halo, and you know what they went to? They said we're going to postpone this game by a whole year. We are not going to
yeah,
drop a bad experience because Cyberpunk and other games came out, but not too long before that trailer for Halo dropped out. Microsoft played it smart. They said, let's go fix our game and drop a complete experience, which Halo Infinite was.
but
EA said, let's take a risk. That's their fault.
I don't think it was. So the
Yeah.
other thing I read is that it wasn't them taking a risk. It's something that they usually do. What I found out is that they do that for all of their games. This is not their first time doing it. But because
Right.
Halo came out around the same time and it was a much more polished product, theirs fell by the wayside. And I'll give you that is their fault, but I think the controversy that I'm trying to lay flat out is that they did not directly blame Halo Infinite. It was just an unfortunate coincidence that Halo Infinite came out and it was a much more polished product than Battlefield 2042.
So social media basically took it out of context.
Yeah.
Basically.
I would say,
which is what they do any day, is clickbait. My bad, Ralph.
Yeah. You good. I would say as a Battlefield player and a person that's played multiple Battlefields, Battlefield 1, Battlefield Hardened, Battlefield 4, those games weren't as bad as Battlefield 2042 was, I would say. When that came out, I played the beta. So I had the early experience of falling through the map, looking like I'm running in place, but I'm still moving. So I experienced all the bugs. I had all the bugs. And I was like, okay, it's doable because it's a beta. They're trying to test and see how everything was. But then as a community, we heard that this was not really the beta. This was an alpha version of what they gave people for the beta. Because apparently they made another version when the beta came out, and they didn't want to give us that. So they gave us a pre-made one. So I was like, okay, why you didn't hear about that, Ryan?
I didn't hear about that.
It's like,
yes,
I remember hearing something about an alpha, but my confusion is why go that route when the whole purpose of a beta is for players to catch issues and bugs that the developers may not have the time nor quantity of users to experience themselves.
Correct. Like, I was very much confused as well. So my confusion was there. When I got the game and actually played the game, I did notice that the bugs that were happening during the beta was not there. However, it was still a few things that would happen as far as, still unable to actually fully run. Like, you'll get the same animation, like you're holding your gun, but it's like you're moving in a mirror instead of actually running. So overall, the game came out decent. It wasn't horrible. I still did enjoy it. I don't play it as much right now. Why? It's kind of like, it's too many other games that's better, that's more polished than what Battlefield 2042 came out with. So it's like, I've set it aside, except whenever friends and stuff get on and they're like, hey, you wanna go play Battlefield 2042? I'll go and play it. Except as far as willingly playing it by myself, I probably won't.
I feel you on that.
And that's the thing. When it worked, it was a good experience because you and me were on there, and I had a good time when it worked. It's just if you and me and all my friends at Gurren Otaku played for like 4 hours, 1 hour was spent trying to log out, log back in, and restart the game so we can actually load into a map.
Yeah.
That was horrible.
The biggest pet peeve that Battlefield 2042 dropped the ball on was not having VoIP at all. No voice chatting whatsoever was on the game.
Oh, okay.
Voice chat just between like teammates.
Like
even in like your own squad, you have no voice chat.
like, you know how if you're not in a party chat on most multiplayer games, Phoop,
Yeah.
how it will still allow you to chat with your fire team or your entire team if that many people are on.
Okay.
hmm
They didn't
So
have
like
that, and
we
they didn't have leaderboards, and that's where some people start saying, "Oh, we're living in a soft generation because y'all ain't gonna say who got the most kills and most
right.
assists and most heals anymore." Like, like we got that sensitive? Like, come on now, it's a game, it's competition.
So my
Like
question
we
for
was
you
out here
guys,
using Discord.
I was just about to ask that, I had two questions, but my first question was to be like, is that why y'all would hop in Discord? Ryan was saying
Yes,
y'all finna hit up
Yes.
Battlefield, and then it's just all of y'all in
Yes.
Discord, and I'm just looking like I know these games have voice chat, but I guess not. So that's
No, it
why
nope.
did
y'all was.
no.
Be,
No, 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 no,
because
no.
the games will be cross-platform one, but then they don't have an in-game chat, which is trash. And PlayStation is just now making a deal with Discord to get that stuff underway. But I'm like, Microsoft, where y'all at so we can have a Discord chat app on all of our consoles now that cross-platform play is a common thing
hmm
now.
Mm-hmm. My
It
second
was rough.
question was, do you guys who is, if there was anybody to blame, who are you blaming? Are you blaming the executives at these game development companies, or are you blaming the game developers for the reason that some of these initial releases are falling short of expectations?
I would have to say the exec. End all be all. They have the power to say this is when we're dropping this game. Even coming from a fellow developer standpoint, when you have certain people that want things at a timely manner, that's your deadline. Unless they move
Hmm.
it for you, you can't move your own deadline. You can set like, hey, I have little small things I have to fix here and there, but depending on how hard of a deadline is, they're gonna want it, and they're just gonna say you just continue to put patches out, or
Hmm.
you just continue to make little minor fixes. So we're just gonna take whatever you have because that's what we think that the consumers want, which is not really what the community wants.
Right.
Like
Hmm.
that's with Call of Duty pushing out every title every year. I fell out of love with that. It's just I feel like games should have that time period to where you actually get a chance to enjoy it instead of
Hmm.
having to buy a new title every year.
And it worked for Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed used to be a
Yes,
year-over-year release, and the second they start taking breaks, they're back on the map.
like Division. Division is another one. They
Hmm.
made Division 1 I think like 8 years ago, and we had Division 1 for like 5 years straight, and then they came out with Division 2. Division 2 was a hit.
Yeah.
I would still go on and play that game because they continue to push out little updates and things like that for refreshers for you to go and do.
But I
So
guess,
I would go back and play that game.
And, and I would, to answer your question, I would blame execs but it's like it's a hierarchy. Well, it's not necessarily a hierarchy, it's like a circle. The execs try to please their investors. The
hmm
developers tries to please the execs, and then the developers are supposed to be pleasing. The game community is trying to be pleased by the developers, but the thing is, gaming is getting a lot more difficult. It is getting a lot more difficult. It requires a lot more resource and a lot more coding. It's even harder to even get in the gaming industry now. But if
hmm
you keep telling people, hey, with all this new tech and everything, we still think y'all should drop a new game every 3 to 4 years. If you work in software and you see how many resources these games take, and these teams are already small and using a lot of contract workers, you need to be giving a lot of these games 6 years plus. And if
yeah,
you look at some of the best games, even in like near past history, some of our favorite RPGs or just large scale games did take 4 to 5 years 2 game generations ago.
Hmm
And now you're trying to get people to push out high AAA games in 3 to 4 years. That formula just ain't working anymore. It's just
yeah.
not working.
I was
And
gonna
the
say,
execs trying to make their money, but it's just y'all gonna lose y'all money at the end of the day because now Sony and Microsoft getting sick of y'all and they issuing refunds when the court of public opinion hates their game.
yeah, I agree with you guys. I think it's the execs. I think it has to do with the climate of today's society. When
Hmm.
hmm
the pandemic first hit, people were buying game systems out the woozah. Switches were at high demand. As when the PS5s and the new Xbox dropped, those were selling. Like, people were crashing the sites. So it's like, with us still being in that climate, still being in the pandemic, where you had people playing games before, but now people are playing games because some of us wasn't working, so what we were doing, playing a game, or we have these work from home jobs that now we can have that flexibility that I can play the game when I get off work. I don't have to do all this other stuff because I'm at home. So I kind of see it as that some of these games are falling short because they're trying to push that demand. They're trying to keep their consumers with something to play. And I have to agree with Ryan that it's not working. It's sometimes hitting that demand, especially, I'm touching on a few points that Ryan said, how much money it costs, how many resources, these software development teams being small, and with COVID on top of that, where I would not be surprised if some of these people were developing these games for remote environments, that these people were not in the same room developing this game, and
They did that with Halo, actually.
Taking all those factors into account, and y'all want to push out games every 3 to 4 years, or y'all trying to make sure that this game, y'all trying to cut stuff short because you want to make sure that your people have something to play every year. It's not going to work. It's not going to work for that very reason, that these games are getting harder to develop. Now, this is not early 2000s where you could release a Nintendo game or a 2K every year or a Madden every year. It's not that simple anymore. It's not that simple where you could release a game almost every month. Y'all remember when we used to watch cable and there would be a game, you would see 3 game commercials. I'm not even kidding. You would see 3 gaming commercials before the show came back on. It's not that easy no more. It is not that easy.
Yeah. And another thing, Portia, Phoop, we're getting less. Like, the games you're naming, in terms of like innovation to the gaming mechanics or story and all of that. Now you see a lot of shooters don't even drop off a story mode, and the excuse is, well, everybody's just going to play the multiplayer anyway. But we're still paying $60 back in the day.
Yeah.
And now games that went up to 70. Back in the day, $60 could get you a full multiplayer experience, a full campaign, and some kind of custom lobby experience.
And that,
now we're missing 1 out of the 3.
I think that's the other thing too, with the climate just being playing online, because let's talk about the people who stream. Let's talk about streamers, and most of the time their streams are coming from online play. So if you're trying to meet the demand, that why take the time to flesh out this full story mode when people gonna play the online mode anyway?
But that's the part where it's like they're trying to, because there is still a large community. Like, just look at the success of PlayStation single player games, but now every game is trying to lean towards live service games. They're trying to integrate microtransactions, and now you got microtransactions in single player games. I don't know if y'all played the recent Assassin's Creed games. Why in the hell am I playing a story mode game and there's a vendor who, if I spend $10, I can get a legendary sword? Why can't I just do the quest to get the legendary sword? Like, now they're trying to mooch players out of their money, yet we're getting half-ass games. It's not a good deal. Like, there's not a balance being struck here. And the few games that do strike a balance, they get rewarded. They get well rewarded.
I give you that. It's with all this stuff surrounding like the future of gaming, like it's a lot of factors to take into. And going back to the games that are being pushed back, I think that some of these companies are seeing other people get this backlash, and they like, oh hell no, push it back. Push it back. Push it back.
2 more years. 2 more years.
Hell no. Push it back. Push it back. But speaking of like demand and like all of like, I guess the games that are getting rewarded and then everything coming more expensive. Let's get back to our streaming service war. And the biggest thing that I want to discuss for this is these live action remakes of things that have been previously animated. and we've talked about this a little bit before back in episode 3, was that why is that a piece of the cycle? It's becoming a piece of the cycle that animated, you get some written content, and then it has to become live action for it to be fully appreciated as a work of art.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing all of these, and the only reason I brought this up is because there have been hella announcements of previously animated content becoming live action to meet a trend, to meet that 3-point criteria. And
Right.
I've seen it's gone from Sonic, it's gone to fucking Blue's Clues. Excuse the F-bomb, but Blue's Clues. Blue's
Fairly Odd
Clues.
Parents again.
That junk drop. Then they talking about they doing a live action Beyblade, and
that's where they lost.
How is that going to work? Did y'all watch Beyblade?
I watched Beyblade. I had a Beyblade. I had
Metal
the one that
and
had
plastic?
the little remote that you can
Yes.
control and it'll pull and snatch. Yes, I had that one.
With the plastic little arenas that you sit on your porch,
Yes.
bro. I don't even see how that is going to become live action, dog.
But I guess the question is, the big question is why. And one of the things I just came up with is making a live action series easier than revamping an animated project as animation. And my argument, my example with this argument is, let's talk about Arcane again. Arcane season 1 took 6 years to create. I don't think it would have taken them 6 years to produce had they decided to make Arcane live action. And if we're trying, and once again, let's talk about the climate. We're in the pandemic. People are sitting at home and they're doing more streaming of movies and TV shows, is because the only thing mostly that we can do if you're not comfortable going out to the movie theaters is to watch stuff at home. So if they're trying to push, and let's talk about Paramount Plus specifically, who hasn't really been putting out a lot of content for people to even pay for the service. If you want this audience to come to your streaming service, I could see it as these live actions with a small budget don't take that much time to make, that you can ship it, whether it's good or bad, it's easy to make, and we're going to go ahead and ship this out.
Yeah.
I feel like what you're saying definitely plays a part, but I feel like the real answer to the question is something you said in the very beginning of your statement, was that why does it have to become a work of art to receive a live action? I feel like that mindset, believing that live action is the end all be all beautiful work of art in cinema, I feel like that mindset is what's ruining people, because people do not like people in like Hollywood and all that don't think that an animated series or an animated movie, whether 3D or 2D, is considered beautiful or considered like an evolution in cinema. And I feel like that's very flawed. Because if you look at a lot of our animated movies, animated series, they are beautiful. They are amazing. We can still have conversations about our favorite Pixar and DreamWorks and Disney movies till this day.
But I guess
I don't know any live action movies that I've watched as much as Shrek or any other animated movies.
But I guess let me counter that argument. Let's talk about the ages we were when we watched these Pixar movies, and I think that's part of the reason is that these animated movies and these 3D animated movies hit so much for us because we saw it as kids. It's the nostalgia. But with the remakes, I guess my question is with the remakes is what audience are they trying to send this to? Because I'm gonna say it like this. Say they wanted to revamp Shrek, to come off your example. Say they wanted to revamp Shrek. If their audience was us, they could definitely make that a 3D project, and that's gonna sell. But who is the audience to where that if they decided to make Shrek live action, who are they trying to sell that to?
Well,
I feel like they're trying to target new kids. They're trying to target the younger generation to get them into it.
yes, and
The
that's
li-
not
But I guess
bad, but
my
at the same time, we've seen great animated, especially series. We
Mhm.
already talked about Vox Machina, Rick and Morty, even Arcane, and all of these more mature series that are meant for people with who are probably a little bit more aged or how do I say not
but
old but more senior people. They were great,
Seasoned, more
more
seasoned.
seasoned. There we go. They
but
were
let me
great
say
if you
this.
target the correct audience.
But let me say this though, to counter your argument again, is that for me, and this may not be true, but for me, the first experience of me seeing live action remakes started with Disney. Disney's been doing live action remakes
True.
for a while. The examples that you
Yeah.
name of mature cartoons, Vox Machina, Arcane, those weren't existing. The adult cartoons that we had during that time period were the comedy ones: Family Guy, Rick and Morty, South Park, The Simpsons.
American
So,
Dad.
American Dad.
I
So,
still like American Dad.
I would, my argument would be that if people were making live action remakes because of the mature cartoons that existed at that time weren't proving that you could take this mature content to another level to equate it to live action, if that's the argument, then I could see that. But if we're going to talk about today, I'm going to roll with Ryun. That we are seeing that these mature cartoons can take a different stance in media than comedy and still be
Mhm.
equated to a live action series as far as seriousness goes. But they're just starting to prove that. They're really, at this point in time, they're really starting to prove that, to where now it's where now it's you could come out with another animated classic, but my steady argument is that I think the live action is just easier and it's faster to push out.
It's like I guess it's like I don't disagree with you, but one thing I would want to know, I wish we could talk to like a Hollywood exec or someone in the industry, because I want to know what is the purpose of some of these live actions. Like we
Mm-hmm.
named a few, but like in terms of like live adaptation projects that were just trash, we can go on and on about Avatar, The Last Airbender's live action, and Dragon Ball Evolution, which adapted Dragon Ball Z. But even like in recent history, if we look at the Death Note live action, we look at the Assassin's Creed live action. Like, are these Hollywood execs' intentions to bring more attention to the franchises, or are they trying to expand the franchises into a new audience? Like, I want to know what the end goal is, or even like the most recent Mortal Kombat live action. The older Mortal Kombat live actions are well received. Now, of course, they may not have aged well, but this new one went completely off the rails with the Mortal Kombat storyline.
But let me point
But
out
if you watch the animated, hmm,
let me point out the trend of all the projects you name. They're movies.
bet.
They're movies.
Yeah.
Right? And so
Hmm.
maybe it's not, maybe the question is when I want to take this series, this network series, and bring it to the masses, I want to make a film out of this. Why does it have to be live action to be deemed cinema? That this has to be a movie. If I'm going to put this in theaters, if I'm going to want people to buy tickets, if I'm going to put movie trailers, if I'm going to have people come out and spend $40 on tickets, popcorn, a slushie, a hot dog,
Nachos.
is live action the route? Is that what I have to do to get that? And it could just
In my
be
opinion, it hasn't been doing that well.
it hasn't, but my counter, and it has not been doing that well. My counter to maybe why the reason why they make it live action for the movie theaters is that, let's talk about the DC universe. And let's talk about the slew of
Mhm.
animated movies that DC has. That if they put those junks in theaters, that they could be in theaters. They could be. Like DC if we just kick out all of the live action blunders and just went straight their animated content, they are a monster. DC put one of their animated movies in theaters. And other than Lego Batman, we're gonna scoot Lego Batman out. But they put one.
We'll talk about that one.
I like Lego Batman, but I just don't think it falls into this category, this journey I'm about to send y'all on. DC put one of their animated movies in theaters, The Killing Joke, in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And they have not, and they added, DC usually does a good job by following the comic book lore for their animated movies, and sometimes they may switch some things around. They switched up this story, put it in theaters, and I did not like it. It did get some negative reviews because of the route that they took with this movie and putting it in theaters. And since then, they have not put another animated DC movie in theaters since then.
So you want to know what's funny?
Mm-hmm.
DC may not have done well with that, but you want to know what? It's honestly a genre that I feel like could change the trend.
What?
If you look at some of these highly acclaimed anime movies, let's not even just immediately say Demon Slayer Mugen Train. Let's not even just say that. Let's not say the Sword Art Online movie that was well received, even though a lot of people hate the series. Let's not even talk about what was the other one. There was another one, the My Hero movies that's been coming out.
Yeah.
I feel like if anybody is going to make it to where animation can be seen on a big screen and still be considered a work of art, I think it is the anime community and the publishers that are pushing those out. Because honestly, in terms of like animated movies that have been well received, they get their investment, and then the fans come out and support. I feel like anime movies have been leading the charge. Now, of course, we got like the more childish lot. We get the more the children geared, leaning towards 2D movies and stuff, and still coming out. But in terms of more mature, or rather built for all audiences, anime is kind of leading the charge on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree.
I think it's
from my perspective. I don't see the metric.
I think it's the climate. I think it's it
Since
all goes
everybody's
back to
now.
it's everybody's pandemic. Anime popularity shot up to the max. It did.
1,000%.
People stopped going to the movie theaters, and we're seeing that some of these streaming services are not even putting their movies in theaters anymore. They're putting it straight on the streaming service. So if the movie theaters want to get their money, yeah, let's throw this anime movie as a part, because anime movies used to be special events at movie theaters.
Yeah.
They used to be for these couple days. These couple days, we are showing this anime movie. Now it's just a part of the line. It's just part of the lineup. Now, when an anime movie drops, it's a part of the lineup. You can pre-order tickets. The JJK Zero movie tickets just dropped on the 25th, and you can pre-order the tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a regular movie. Like we pre-ordering tickets for Batman. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's the climate. I think going forward, because of how animation is going and the things that you can do with animation, and people are starting to see that, I think some some companies may start backing down from live action. That they can say that, yeah, we can animate this, because we've seen the feedback that you can get from making this animated. We can put this animated movie in theaters and know we're gonna make some money back just because of how these anime movies are selling. And I just think that at a point in time, live action became the trend, and now people are announcing all these projects as live action instead of taking the risk of making it animated and seeing the fruits of the labor.
Right.
And what's funny, Portia, because you kind of touched on it earlier, and we didn't really get to explore it. I feel like where live action is thriving now is when you make it a series in the first place. The Witcher live action adaptations, very good. With Lord of the Rings coming out with their series, even though some folks are complaining, the fact that they're starting to do a series instead of doing more movies, I feel like that might do well. Even Game of Thrones is the most highly acclaimed live action series to date. To date, it got the most. Even though we hate the last two seasons, it still did very well in terms of how much money it incurred and the number of fans and the amount of and the way it affected pop culture. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like in terms of new trends that Hollywood really needs to explore, let's keep exploring live action series and let's also continue to explore animated movies that are meant for adults, or not necessarily adults, but all age ranges, not just children. Let's not limit it. I feel like those are the two trends that Hollywood really needs to explore more
I
because
think
it
what's
seems like it's starting
also
to.
I think what's also has changed in Hollywood is that what makes a movie and what makes a series. Like,
Yeah.
let's just talk the Marvel stuff because Marvel has series now. What
Yeah.
separates Avengers Endgame from WandaVision being a series? That's an obvious answer. Avengers Endgame can't be a series, but WandaVision could. And if they made WandaVision a movie, would it have met? Would it have met the expectation of the other MCU movies going around? Probably not. Maybe not.
But you can still connect the storylines regardless of which route you do. You can
I
still
mean,
connect
yes,
the
you can
storylines
connect the
and make it a
storyline, but I'm just saying
conducive
what
Yeah.
series.
the expectation, because you talked about Lord of the Rings, and when Lord of the Rings first came out, maybe during the time period that Lord of the Rings came out, that for people to get an appreciation of the Lord of the Rings from being books, let's make this a movie, and those movies came out to be long as hell. But now they're making a
Yeah.
series. But let's talk about what movies are now, and maybe they look back at the Lord of the Rings movie and it was like, we could have easily made this a series. And now they're taking that route that with Rings of Power is coming out as a series. So it could just be
And movies are
the
getting
change in
longer and
Hollywood.
longer anyway.
The movies are getting longer, but let's talk about the factor. That's the only way I can say it, the factor of these movies. Because it's the same thing of when we watched Eternals. We were like, this could have been a series. And maybe
Easily.
if they made it a
Easily.
series, it may have had more impact on us as watchers than it did a movie. Like, now we can make that separation that back in the gap, when we was going to watch these 2-hour Harry Potter movies, these 2-hour Lord of the Rings movie, I couldn't see myself walking out the theater and be like, this could have been a series. Now, because of the series that are being executed, we've had conversations where we was like, I could see them making a Harry Potter series because this, that, and the third. But when the movies was dropping out, we weren't having that conversation. But it's just the
A
change in
Harry Potter
Hollywood.
series will go hard.
It's just the change in Hollywood. And now we are, as an audience, we are seeing that line between what can be a movie and what should have been a series. I want to touch on Lord of the Rings again, because Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power dropped a trailer Super Bowl Sunday, and it got some hate. It got some complaints. The complaint is that fans of the Lord of the Rings series were complaining that the series was woke. And reading up on the reason of why they were calling it woke is because of the diversity of the cast, with them including people of color, black people. And it's just like, so it's woke because it's black people? And then it went on to that the original Lord of the Rings lore did not include black people. And I was like, okay, so what does that have to do with? I mean, I get it. I guess there is a separation between lore and casting, because
True.
lore is like, I see lore as that this universe functions like this. These are these set of people. These are this set of people. These are their functions. I don't feel like it should be bound in color, and I would not deem
I
Lord of
see
the
why it's
Rings, Rings of
difficult.
Power being woke. It is difficult for me to explain it, but I just don't think that they were trying to be woke by putting black people in Lord of the Rings. I don't think that they were like, oh, let's power to the people. Let's throw these black people into the Lord of the Rings series. I just don't think that's what it was.
That's probably what people are actually getting at too, though, because in United States, we are currently in like this phase of having more black people or more people that other than just white in commercials and TV shows more often, and like any average thing that we see now is we're starting to see more black people. Even we're starting to see more, LGBTQ plus, people actually in commercials now as well.
But is that
Instead,
being
at
woke?
first it was more so white. I would say
But
if they would have did it, can I?
You got it. You
I
got
would
it.
say if they would
I'm
have
be
did it at the
quiet.
beginning, if they would have did it at the beginning of everybody complaining and saying, we would like to see more diversity in our commercials and our TV shows and the things that we watch, instead of, to bring up an old topic, was Ryan named all of those movies that failed, all the live action movies that failed. And the one trend that I noticed during those movies, they didn't pick the right actors. They didn't pick the right people to play those roles from what we watched in the animation.
So
Yeah, but I
and
would.
this is what I was going to touch on. Ralph said something, both of y'all said something, and it's a balance, because where do you strike the balance between inclusion, quality actors and actresses, and meeting the lore slash historical notes of a series? Because if you read a lot of books, you look at a lot of original like storylines for different series, not just Lord of the Rings. Yeah, different races will be described as having certain hair textures, certain skin colors, and all that. Okay, we want to make this a live action adaptation. Cool. Well, how do we balance out? Obviously, we want to have quality actors and actresses, but we kind of do want to stick to the lore. But let's just be honest, inclusion and representation matters a whole lot as well.
And that's what I was
And there
about to
has to be
say.
a middle ground. You can't lean to one side more than the other, or you're
That's what I
going to
was about to
disappoint
say.
some audience.
I don't
Yeah.
think it's.
Hmm.
I think the question is this woke or is this just inclusion? And I just see it that this is inclusion. This is not them being woke. They had black people in Game of Thrones. They didn't have a lot, but they had black people in
They
Game of
had a
Thrones.
piece.
They had black people in The Witcher. And can we just get to the bottom? Let's take our Blerd nerd hat off, and can we just talk about that this shit is fake? It's fake.
Yeah.
It is fantasy.
It's
It's
not
definitely
real.
fantasy.
Some of this stuff is based off live action events, like Game of Thrones is based on some wars that happened in history, but this stuff is fake. So why does it matter if this one person is a different person of color? Like, why does that matter? It's fake. But I would just say this: why is it being called woke, and why are we not seeing it as just it being inclusive? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And my whole thing is, for it to be a trailer, like, I wasn't just a diehard Lord of the Rings fan. I watched it with my moms. I was like, this is so fun. These movies are long, but I love the fantasy and the wars, and the elves look all cool and stuff. But in my opinion, at the exact same time, y'all just watched the trailer, saw like two black people, and all of a sudden it's
It's
woke. I saw some
woke.
people saying this was like some colorful Narnia trash. Lord of the Rings is gritty, and if you watch the old movies came out in the early 2000s where graphics and cinema didn't have the technology to be bright and colorful. They were using animatronics and shit. Like, what do y'all like? We have yet
But
to see
it's fake.
much about the story. We've yet to see an episode. It still delves into fantasy. Like for someone to say something is bad and woke and give it all these labels before even really fully experiencing it, that's a little weird to me. That's a little weird to me.
And it just goes back. My bad, Ron. I'm gonna let you finish.
No, I was just gonna say like one little tidbit. I was like, I almost want to see what did people think about Game of Thrones when it first came out, because I didn't jump on the Game of Thrones train until season 5 was releasing episodically because I was a little bit younger. I want to see how people reacted to the trailer for season 1 of that and see if they reacted the same way.
I don't know. I haven't watched the season 1 trailer of Game of Thrones, and I was just gonna say that this argument, this is an existing argument that if we want to just go fantasy series, it was the big debate on whether Hermione from Harry Potter was white or black, and it's just like, why does it matter? She's a witch. They're not real. It's not real.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
It's not real. Like, why does it matter? I understand that in the movies, the actress was white. So if you were coming off the movie, but that doesn't mean that she has to be white in every single Harry Potter production. Like, even in the book, in the book, I don't think they set her skin color for real. Like, if she was white or black, but it's just like, why does it matter? Because the big thing came up because her actress in the play, The Cursed Child, was a black woman. Now it's just like, why does it matter? It's fake. And then let's talk about, I have to step into my comic book stuff, is when they were doing the live action Teen Titans and they casted a black woman to play Starfire, and there was uproar about that. And I was like, y'all, Starfire is an alien. She's originally orange. Like, what?
Right.
Like, why are you mad that this? Like, why are you mad that this alien is? And when they do live action, it's a black woman. Like, she could, like, she's orange.
Or the Little Mermaid. Or the Little Mermaid with Halle Bailey. The Little Mermaid is a creature underwater.
Yes.
If anything,
like, this
her
is
skin should be like gray and weird looking.
This is an ongoing argument, and I just don't understand. And I do not see, when they make these casting choices, I don't see these companies trying to be woke. I just see it. I just see it that they're trying to be more diverse. They're trying to be more inclusive because, as Ralph said, representation matters. In this climate, in this day and age, representation matters. So you cannot be mad. You cannot be upset. You can't. Maybe in the Lord of the Rings movie, it could have slid back then, but now I don't see it as trying to be woke. We can tell. You can tell when somebody does something and they're trying to be woke. But I just watched it as a regular serious commercial. Like, that's what's up. Like, oh, it's a black guy in the Lord of the Rings series. That's what's up.
And that's what I'm talking about with the balance. It's like, if someone is leaning too far to trying to be inclusive, and then they sacrifice good acting and a good story, that's when I got an issue. Avatar: The Last Airbender, live action movie. When you're trying to lean too far into that area, that's when it gets bad. But if somehow you are very inclusive and have some representation, and the actors and actresses are very good quality, and you stick to the story if it's a pre-existing property, that's when you got a great movie or series right there. All you got to do is tap into each of those 3 pillars, and you got a quality work of art.
Because it's like, why does it? Because it's fantasy and because it's fake, why does it matter? Now, I would understand if they were doing like a Black History movie, like they decided to do a remake of Selma, and they casted Martin Luther King as a white man. That's different. That's different. That crosses a line. That crosses a line, and it's different. But this stuff is fake. But this stuff, but I'm just saying, like, I'm just trying to make the divide that this stuff is fake. That they live in a world of gremlins and trolls and centaurs, and y'all mad that it's black people in it? Like, what? Monsters and ghouls and ghosts and stuff like that, but it's woke because it's black people in it.
Us can't be black. Black people can't have pointed ears.
I don't understand. I don't understand.
It don't make sense.
Does not make sense to me. But I have some news for you, Ralph. So last episode, one of your surprises for 2022 was the Doctor Strange trailer when they showed the third Doctor Strange. The Multiverse of Madness, another Multiverse of Madness trailer dropped on Super Bowl Sunday. That Doctor Strange has been confirmed to be Defender Strange. That's what they call him. From another universe.
Okay.
So it's Doctor Strange, the Doctor Strange that we know, Strange Supreme, and Defender Strange. Those are the three Doctor Stranges that are mentioned on the poster. But besides that, that trailer left me in shambles, y'all. This is about to be disgusting. They introduced the Illuminati, Marvel's Illuminati, with Charles Xavier, Patrick Stewart's Charles Xavier from the 2000 X-Men. They coming. He's on the internet acting like we don't know what we're talking about, but we know it's you, Patrick. I know it's you, Patrick. We know it's you, but just hearing his voice in the trailer, that was like the first minute of the trailer. The trailer's like 2 minutes long. That was like the first minute of the trailer. And I was like, I paused and I was like, is that who I think it is? What's that mean? Now I know that's not who I think it is. But I was like, Charles, two Wandas. There are two Wandas in this trailer. The rumor going around that the Wanda that we saw in WandaVision may be a variant. That's the rumor that I heard. It's interesting. Or it could be that that's regular Wanda and the second Wanda that we saw is a variant. But there's two Wandas. What else was in there? There's somebody. The other thing, there was somebody fighting Wanda in the trailer. Yeah. The three options that I've heard is that it's Monica Rambeau from WandaVision as a Captain Marvel variant from another universe. It's Maria Rambeau, her mother, as Captain Marvel from another universe. Or it's Tom Cruise as Superior Iron Man.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see. The newest news that came out about this movie was that they are saying that this movie is supposed to provide closure for the early 2000 Marvel movies. So that includes X-Men, 2003 Hulk, not the one that I like. There was a Hulk movie before that. So 2003 Hulk, Fantastic Four, and Ghost Rider. They said that this movie is supposed to supply closure for all four of those Marvel movies. What does it mean by closure? I guess
the proper ending, probably.
Right. So Fantastic Four, the one that came in the 2000s, didn't get a third movie.
That's the one where Silver Surfer was like the second one and everything, right? Okay, I remember.
They didn't get a third movie. I think Ghost Rider only got one movie, and it may.
Yeah, Ghost Rider only got one.
No, Ghost Rider had two.
Ended.
Wait, did it?
Ghost Rider had two movies?
I watched the second Ghost Rider. Yeah, the first one was when he rode off with that dude on the horse, and the second one was with those guys with the tats on their bodies and those like monks or something.
Okay, so Ghost Rider didn't get a third movie. The 2003 Hulk didn't even get a second movie. They just revamped with a new actor. And X-Men got their 3 movies, but I can't remember how X-Men The Last Stand ended. So they may have ended to where we didn't really get an answer on certain stuff. Or it could be that
I don't remember.
Or it could be that they're just trying to supply closure based on what happened when they came back with those other X-Men movies, because Days of Future Past tied that X-Men universe with the previous movies. So it could just be giving closure for all of the X-Men movies. They're about to insert them as lore into the MCU, and now they're just about to put a definite stamp on all of these movies before they move on to the next thing. that we're about to see. But the movie is touching 3 hours. I've said this. The movie is touching 3 hours, and from what I have seen, this is going to be a monster. This is I can say I'm ready, but I don't think I am. And because let's talk about all the things that I just threw up coming out of this trailer. The movie is 3 hours long. That trailer could be the first 10 minutes of the movie.
If that much. We see how Marvel does this stuff.
If that much. Like, we may get maybe, how many Spider-Man trailers did we get? Like 4 or 5? We may get.
And they were literally up until the point where he saved old girl off that bridge. That's all they touched on.
Exactly. So it's like, these trailers have not put a dent. I know for a fact that these trailers have not put a dent into what we're going to be seeing out of this movie. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to bring it up because Ralph didn't know who that third Doctor Strange was, and they confirmed it in the trailer. It's going to be... I might cry.
I do want to say, you did leave one thing off. You left one thing off.
Mm-hmm.
Zombie Doctor Strange.
You got me. Zombie Doctor Strange and Zombie Wanda. It's Zombie Doctor Strange and it's Zombie Wanda. So, this was my other thing. I tweeted on Twitter that because the zombies, if you are not familiar with the comic books, the first time of you seeing a glimpse of Marvel zombies was in the What If series on Disney Plus. And I tweeted and I was like, well, if this What If series is supposed to be preparing us for Multiverse of Madness, y'all should just say that so people can start watching the series. Like, if this What If, because What If series was essentially a play. It's the multiverse. They explored these different universes, and then at the end, all of these people came together to stop this bigger thing. And it was like, if y'all were preparing us for the Multiverse of Madness the whole time, y'all could have just said that. So
honestly,
but what I've seen, in my personal opinion, I think for Multiverse of Madness, to be safe, I would say watch the What If series, the whole thing. But if I had to make assumptions on what episodes you should watch, Marvel Zombies and the Doctor Strange episode. Those are my assumptions. And those are the 2 episodes that you should be at least familiar with before walking into the movie. But with us just talking about that this is a 3-hour movie and this trailer could be like the first 5-10 minutes, I would watch the whole thing to be safe. I would.
They need a 5 to 10 minute intermission so we can use the rest of the
we need. You don't need no intermission. You don't need no intermission. You do not need no intermission with me. Man, I'm gonna sit there.
Yes, I do.
I need you old. You're old. It's something. It's giving old folks home. It's giving old folks home.
Have you been to these new movie theaters where they'll bring the food to the chair? You over here eating a whole meal, pretzel and cheese, chicken strips. After an hour and a half, I'm tired. I need to be able to stretch my legs and use the restroom or something.
That's your fault. That's your fault. You about to sit in a 3-hour movie and you just ate a full dinner. And I know for a fact that you ate. I know for a fact that you ate that whole meal during the commercials. Yes. The movie hadn't even started. See, you played too much. Then your fault.
What's icy? What you talking about?
That's your fault. That's your fault.
No, because if I don't eat in the beginning, I'm gonna be hungry at the end. And the movie 3 hours. If I go watch it at 7,
but I'm just saying.
Why would you eat at the beginning?
But look what he said. He was eating, Ralph. He had a pretzel and cheese and a chicken tender plate with an icy. And you don't think you're gonna be tired there? You don't think you're gonna be tired during the movie?
Cause the AMCs that deliver the food, they got that little combo. It'd be like the pretzel bites, mozzarella sticks.
I don't like this man.
When I get my drink, I don't want to pay for icy, so I get a large Coke. But I got to refill it at the fountain instead of getting a drink. I put the icy in there.
I just want to say, every movie that we've been in with you have fell asleep at least twice.
Yeah, because they be long.
He trying to think about it.
They be long.
He trying to think
and
about
plus,
it. But my thing is
mm-mm.
I feel like you should just make better life choices. This is a 3-hour movie. I just don't think that you should just get a full meal and a drink on the side when you know this is about to be a 3-hour movie.
Right,
This feels
just go
like
I
get
just
some
I just don't
snacks.
think that's a good decision.
I feel like this
Grab
is
you
victim
some
blaming.
Twizzlers, some
I
Sour
think an
Patch straws or
intermission should be
something.
brought back.
I don't think they are, because Endgame was 3 hours. Did you get an intermission in Endgame?
We needed one.
But did you get
We
one?
needed.
But did you get
Do
one?
you want to
No,
know
you
why I
didn't.
stayed awake? Because we was all in there
But
together. I was only
but
awake because we was all in there together.
But I'm gonna say this about Endgame is that even though Endgame was 3 hours, it did not feel like 3 hours.
Nah.
It did not feel like
True.
3 hours at all. And this just could be what Doctor Strange is about to be, that in numbers, this is a 3-hour movie. But we gonna sit there and blink and the movie gonna be over. And you're gonna be like, that was 3 hours?
We gonna see X-Men Fantastic Four. Boom, movie over. What? Next movie coming out soon. What?
I think that Marvel does a good job with not making the movies feel as long as they are. Because even Spider-Man didn't even feel that long. When I first watched Spider-Man, It didn't feel like I was watching a 2.5-hour movie.
I'll give you that. It has to be a really immersive movie.
Right. So,
but not everybody's Marvel.
And that's what I was about to say. Everybody can't do that, because let's talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League. That 4-hour cut felt like 4 hours.
Yeah.
It felt like 4 hours. It was 4 hours and it felt like 4 hours.
Wow.
I've yet to watch past the 1.5 hour mark on that. I could get on HBO Max right now and show you where I stopped it, because I was like, this is just long.
You don't have to show me.
I think I made it to like I think I made it through like maybe 4 episodes.
4 chapters.
Wasn't it like broken up into like I made it through like 4 chapters. And I was tired.
It felt like a chore. It felt like a chore to watch Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, I will give Zack Snyder's Justice League its props, because it did explain a bit more than what the original cut of Justice League did. I'll give him that the story did feel a bit more cohesive. But it really felt like a chore to watch this 4-hour movie, and I don't like that. You made a 4-hour movie and it actually felt like I was watching a 4-hour movie.
They should have made that a series. Going back to what we talked about earlier.
Honestly, I think they rushed into the Justice League movie. That was my biggest nitpick when they started the DCEU. I feel like they rushed to get to the Justice League. Like, how do you... Because first of all, they shrunk the Justice League. It was Batman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, Flash, and Aqualad, Superman. Well, it's 6. It's the original 6. They replaced Martian Manhunter with Cyborg. Whatever.
Right.
This is what they did leading up to Justice League. Wonder Woman... I want to say the Aquaman movie came after Justice League, but Wonder Woman got her movie, Superman got his movie, and then they tried to do this big 3 Batman v Superman movie, and then ship out Justice League.
Hot garbage.
Right, and I was just like, you guys made 3 movies and then tried to make a team-up movie, and it wasn't cohesive. It wasn't. I think if they would have took their time and fleshed out these characters a bit more, like, even if you wanted to still put the Flash movie and the Cyborg movie after Justice League, sure, but at least include them in the movies that you have previously, because the only thing I can compare it to is the MCU. And what was I about to say? Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch got introduced. Hawkeye got introduced in Thor. Scarlet Witch got introduced in Iron Man. But we still got to see the characters before y'all rush and make an Avengers movie, and now y'all trying to introduce Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch, and it was not Scarlet Witch, Black Widow. And it's like, this doesn't make any sense. You see what I'm saying? Like, they tried, like, Zack Snyder's Justice League did explain more, but they tried to do full backstories on everybody. Like Flash had a full backstory. Cyborg was getting a full backstory. And it was like, you guys could have easily just shoved this into somebody else's movie and then made Justice League.
Look, forget Kevin Feige talking about no more Avengers. Zack Snyder need to say no more Justice League until we get our solo films.
Man, look, I'm calling bullshit. I'm calling fact and bullshit on Kevin Feige saying that there's no more Avengers movies. I'm calling fact because it could just be there are no more Avengers movies with the Avengers as we know. Like, this era of the Avengers that we have grown up with for the past 22 movies no longer exists. And if that's his meaning, I call fact. But if he doesn't mean that, I call bullshit. Because the movie may not be called Avengers, but there's other Avengers team. You have the Young Avengers, you have the New Avengers, you have the Dark Avengers. So he could just be messing with us like, it's not going to be called the Avengers. You're just going to come with Young Avengers. Because they're already setting it up with the introduction of Shang-Chi, Yelena Belova, Kate Bishop as Hawkeye, Patriot, Ironheart. He's already setting up the next generation of Avengers. So sure, they won't be the Avengers. They won't be Tony Stark and Captain America and them. But there's going to be some subset of the Avengers.
That's why I say BS too. I feel like it was more so a clickbaity. Let's get everybody's attention. No more Avengers comes out. Young Avengers Part 1. Like, come on now. We know what y'all doing.
So the full quote is, and I think it's just one of those things that he said something in journalism. The full quote is that Marvel Studios in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is now past their 10th anniversary, and with the release of the final Avengers movie, we've completed a 22-movie Infinity Saga. So it was interpreted that there's no more Avengers movies because he said the final Avengers movie. But for me, it can go two different ways, which I could call fact and I could call bullshit.
Right. I agree with you. I feel like it's a play on words. I feel like it may not be a full Avengers titled movie. It could be Young Avengers or even Heroes and Friends. I don't know what they're gonna do. They're still gonna have like those multi-hero faceted movies where it's like a big bad. I feel like we're still gonna get those.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And I think
BS.
I guess before I say my piece, why you think it's BS, Ruff?
I think it's BS mainly because it's really just what you say. It's just a play on words. That's it. It's like in the day and age where we stay on social media now, you saying that can cause a huge uproar in your community of there's no more Avengers movies, and that everybody's just sparking all these different conversations. Just like what we are having now. So it's like, you know, you want that more attention. Yeah. You pretty much want that more attention on what you want. That way, you know, you could be like, oh, we're just going to scrap the Avengers and go with what New Avengers, Young Avengers, pretty much you said. Like, I think they're done with just the Avengers title by itself, except they're just going to add, you know, something else to blank Avengers. Or maybe even if they don't do that, they're just going to make it a whole new name, make a whole new name for it.
Yeah, I
agree.
I agree. He's setting up for another team up. It may just not be called the Avengers, but I call BS.
Only time will tell.
So the mob is calling BS with an ounce of fact, like
an ounce of fact, like
just a little,
just a little bit of fact. But I think
that better be our thumbnail right there.
I think
everybody
it's a little bit of
right there.
Just a little bit of fact. So we got through most of our topics. The last thing is the for tech and the technologies, we've been hearing a lot about these flying cars going around. So my question is, are we riding in the flying cars? When the flying cars drop, are we or are we not flying in the flying cars?
Little bit of background for the audience. They have created a flying car. It can reach 63 miles per hour and is available for purchase for $92,000. And for a upper class person, that is actually purchasable. If I could purchase that, I would. I would.
Okay.
I would. I would.
What about
it
you,
looks
Ralph?
so cool.
What I want to say in my head, I don't think is appropriate for the podcast, but I'm gonna just say
said,
no.
hell no. Ralph said, hell no. I'm not riding in that shit.
Ralph ain't even riding in EVs until he's forced to. Ralph will not even get an EV until there's no more gas on this earth.
I haven't had the opportunity to actually test drive an EV yet. What I would plan to do for my birthday actually is I want to go and test drive a Charger or a Challenger for my birthday just to get a feel for it. They do have a Tesla dealership here that you can go and sign up for, but I've heard the wait list is long. But back to the topic. No, hell no. I would not get in a flying car. The reason why is because what if you get in? I'm gonna just paint this scenario.
He finna say
what
something
if you
stupid.
get in?
He finna say something stupid.
What if you get in and other people are also flying their cars, right? And somebody's drinking on the other side of the other car or something, and they're flying, right? And y'all hit. Now y'all not on the ground anymore. When y'all crash, you gotta fall X amount of feet to the ground and go splat.
I mean,
okay,
crashes
my
are already
counter,
dangerous.
My counter to that is that I don't think that flying cars are going to come out and they're just going to let everybody get a flying car. I think when flying cars when it's possible for people to start flying cars, I don't think that everybody is not going to be able to afford a flying car. So you're going to have a minimum population of people actually driving flying cars. 2, I think if we're smart, and I feel like we have to be in this situation, is that you would have to get a secondary license to drive a flying car. They are not going to take your Mississippi driver's license that I got by driving around Metro and let me drive a flying car. They're not going to let me do that. Third thing, they have to put a lot of traffic laws in place for flying cars because flying cars are not the only thing that's going to be up in the air. Airplanes. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be like, where can you fly in the flying car? What are the traffic laws of being in the flying car? So I would ride in the flying car if I know for sure that they have taken the time to make sure that I can have a safe travel from A to B in this flying car. Now, if it's just we selling flying cars, do as you will, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
But that's the thing. It's like in retrospect, like I see where Ralph was coming from. But people were thinking the same thing when we was riding in horses and carriages back when James Ford, I can't remember his first name, when they started creating some of the first cars and motorized vehicles. They were like, wait, how we gonna ride in this? We got horses, we got dirt roads. This stuff ain't gonna work. A wheel, what's that? People
engine.
acted like that. And then the architect.
He right.
Right.
And now look where we at.
Evolved.
And look where we at.
We had highway systems and interstates created. Exactly. Flying cars, and then now we got EVs. Autopilot is very popular. We're getting all this stuff inserted into vehicles now while on land. Flying cars are at some point, they might become the main mode of travel.
And they could just be I would love to fly in one. It could be self-drivable. If what Ryan was saying with the auto driving technology that they're putting in most of these cars, that could just be the main. When we make a flying car, this feature has to be in there. Because think about cars now.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a seatbelt. You have to have an airbag. Because of the way that phones and technology is going, you have to be able to have some Bluetooth support. You have to have something that I can navigate with GPS. I have to be able, and even with the take that they took with people texting and driving and calling and driving, where now you can do that stuff from your dashboard, your car, you have to have that in there. That's part of safety. So maybe when flying cars become the norm, it has to be able to drive itself.
Right.
And infrastructure can definitely evolve. Like we might be living in the world of Futurama where we got traffic lights floating in midair and everything. Like you never know.
Yo, no. Okay. I should have let you finish, but when you said Futurama, the first thing that came in my head is when they be traveling by them tubes. I'm not getting in there.
Do that.
Boy.
That'd be dope.
Okay. No, it would not be. Claustrophobia. Like, because you remember on parts of Futurama they would get in traffic jams, and you just right here with somebody in this tube. Like, absolutely not. Now, if you could guarantee that I could get from A to B with no issue, sure, I might be in the little tube for at the max 60 seconds. You got 20 people getting into this tube, and then y'all get in a traffic jam? Absolutely not.
Here's the thing. Once high-speed rails become popular, and like at least in the States, and we get flying cars, those tubes are going to be the equivalent to the folk who choose to ride bikes. That's just going to be what it is. They can't afford a high-speed rail. They don't got their own flying car. They got to float in the tube.
I just don't think that they would just build... I don't think that they would build tubes. If they out here... Though, I would say this. The minute they stop tearing down highways to make tubes, I'll believe you. But I don't think they're going to get rid of the highways. Because that's the only way the tube's going to fit. You mean to tell me we're going to be in the most congested city with all these highways and we got a tube system?
Like, imagine New York with tubes.
Exactly. Imagine Texas with tubes.
I mean, look at how crowded New York subways already are.
Look at where you at. Look at where you at. Imagine LA with tubes.
Listen, bro, if there was a tube outside my window that I could jump in and it'd take me to the grocery store, I'm jumping in it. I'm jumping
it's not going to take you directly to the grocery store. Let's say you had to come out your
window.
No. It's not going to be set up where you're going to have a tube coming out your window. It's going to be like a bus stop. You have to walk out your house, walk to the tube stop. The tube stop going to take you to this spot, and it's going to take you directly to where you want to go, or you're going to have to hop in another tube.
Yes.
So here's the real question. If there was a tube system, if we had a tubular system in the States, would y'all ride it?
Absolutely not. That's disgusting. That's disgusting. Not even the claustrophobia part. It's just you gonna get in this tube, people blowing their hot ass breath all on these tubes, people coughing, sneezing. We in a pandemic, and that's what I'm saying. Like, absolutely, that's too close for comfort to be riding with random strangers in a tube.
In Futurama, the common code don't even exist anymore. There's a whole episode, and when they had a fight,
but we're not talking about Futurama. We talking about right now. We are in the middle of a pandemic.
Implementing tubes.
You can ride in it. When they start making tubes, I want you to be the first person in line. I want you to be the first person in line. And I want you to tell me about your experience.
I'll be the main one part in that MF for two. That
man get stuck in the tube.
He said I had to fart, so I rode in the tube to the grocery
I wanted to ruin somebody's day just because of you.
That is disgusting.
I hope you get stuck. I pray you get stuck in that tube, sir.
Oh my! I hope you have the worst gas and it's just a traffic jam, so you have no
but to inhale it.
Oh my goodness.
No. Oh my God.
Y'all foolish. But that is all the time that we have for today. So for everybody listening, everybody watching, thank you for continuously supporting us. Thank you for listening to this episode, and we hope to see you guys next episode. So Ralph, lead us out.
All right. thank you guys for listening. Please follow us at Twitter. Please follow us on Twitter and Facebook at the Blerd Mob, and make sure to follow us on Instagram at the Blerd Mob Pod. And that is it. That's it, everybody. Peace out.
Peace.
Hands up. If you loving where you at, stand 10 toes down. Shawty ain't no looking mad. You can let them haters hate when they asking why I'm smiling.